Next, we're going to talk about the user general policies in here. The first value that we have is disable invitation to new users. If we don't want our full users and guest users to invite external users that are not part of FileCloud yet, when they are creating a share, we can change this to yes. But if we want them to allow them to do this, we're going to leave it on no by default. The next value is the ability to create new accounts on user shares. This is somewhat different to the first one, and this one is telling the system that whenever a user is creating a share and they invite an external user, which is not part of FileCloud, an account is going to be created in the background. And there is a setting for what type of account is it going to be created that we discussed on the admin setting before. And that is that if we go to admin and you see the automatic account approval, which is number 3, this is saying this to the system that any account that it's creating when we are creating a share is going to be a limited user account. Now, if we continue here with our user policies, we have other options that are related to the applications running on their computers. If we can enable code-based device authentication, if we change this to yes, whenever a user is registering a new sync application or drive application from their desktop computer, this is going to require a code to be entered, and they can log into their user interface with their user and password, go to their settings and devices, and they can copy the code from there to put it into the desktop application. So it's a two-factor authentication for the first login on their desktop computers. We can also enable that every new device that is connected, and that could be a sync application, drive application, or any mobile application, it's going to require for the admin to approve it. This is just another security layer in FileCloud. So if you want the admin to always have the ability to decide which devices are actually allowed or not, you can change this to yes. Other options here are session timeouts for the devices. We can decide if we want to timeout the logging of the desktop applications at a specific amount of time, which is based on the time a session expires on the web. And we can also allow the folder level security. This is going to have the ability to give different permissions to the users whenever they are sharing a folder externally or internally. For example, if a user is sharing a folder and they want specific items from that folder to be hidden from the recipients, if we enable this feature, they will be able to go into the permissions tab on the user interface and add some special permissions, for example, to not view specific folder or files, or to make them as read-only, even though the share could actually be read and write. We can enable the web edit feature. This is especially useful, for example, if your users use Office 365, but your external users don't, or a specific group of people do have Office 365 accounts and others don't, we can decide to show or hide the edit on the web button from the user interface from here. The other items here that we have is the recycle bin clear feature. These basically will have the ability to tell the system if we want the users to be on their own to be able to clear the recycle bin or not. If we decide that they don't, all the files will not be deleted from the recycle bin. It will only happen if the admin decides to do so, or if you configure the recycle bin feature to clear after a specific amount of days. That's the only time that the files will be deleted. The other option that we have is, remember the default settings that we show here on the general tab, the one that says default expiring time or default max number of downloads, or there is another set of settings for the default behavior of shares. We can decide if the users are allowed or not to do so. If we say yes, those settings are going to remain the same. They won't be able to edit them. And if we say no, they will be able to change the default values of those settings. And the last part is there is a special group in the system that is created by default after installation that is called everyone. that everyone group, once you see the settings in there, you will see that everyone includes all the full and guest accounts. It doesn't include the limited accounts. But if you want to avoid your users to creating shares that every one of those users are going to be able to access, you can decide to avoid using the everyone group when they are creating a share.